Okay, I guess we're live. So let me continue where we left off last night and see if I can get through some of this before dinner and family obligations. So we're at about 50 seconds into the video, and this is not the way that you would make a video. Normally you would write a script first, and here I'm putting it together on the fly. But that's a challenge too that's sort of interesting. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a picture, and you can see I can also drag pictures right in from here. I don't need to go to add image and then open up a folder to add the image. If I can see it here, I can just drag it in, and then you'll always want to use that scroll wheel to zoom in and out on your mouse. You should have a 3-button mouse if you're doing any work in video. And I'm going to put in this image, and oh, my computer's giving me problems, isn't it? Why is that slowing down? I don't know. Come on, computer. All right. It's being really slow for some reason. And maybe I have to... So I'm going to have to quit Blender and start it again because it definitely crashed everything. Let's start it again. And let's go into, come on, computer. All right, and then let's open up the Mercy College Echo Village video. There we are. Oh, that's another version of it. So let me open up another one. Rosebud Blend for Mercy. There we are. And so it didn't save that. Let me go again and find my images. Yes, the food is cooking nigh. So I'm going to drag this in, and again scroll wheel in, and say here, picture here, and we say
that is our primary text.
Okay, so now I have this picture, and what I'm going to do with this picture is say I'm going to say in the script, I'm going to go to Audacity, and I'm going to say, let's open up Audacity here. Come on, Audacity, you can do it. There we go. Skip that, skip that. One of our projects is to model the Rosebud Continuum Sustainability Education and Eco-Science Center in virtual reality using 3D tools like Unity and Blender. Blender is not only useful for making video editing, but also for making mesh models like you'd see in a computer game to do world-building simulations. Okay, so we have that, and let's see if it came out okay. One of our projects is to model the Rosebud. Okay, so we have that, and I can again hit delete on that beginning piece, and then export this as an MP3 and make it as Rosebud Modeling 1, and save that piece. Heck of a way to make a video piece by piece like this, but it does give me some fun to do this, and then add the sound clip, which I can find in music, and then there it is there, and then put it here. And once again, as we said, you want to display waveform so you can see it. Our projects is to model the Rosebud Continuum Sustainability Education and Eco-Science Center in virtual reality using 3D tools like Unity. Okay, so maybe we'll do it as Center in virtual reality using 3D tools like Unity and 3D Blender. Tools like Unity and tools like Unity. And then I will go into, see if I can find a picture from Unity in here. Or if I don't have one of those, of course, going to the web is perfectly reasonable. And I can say Unity for Humanity, and there's the Unity for Humanity Creator Program. And let me move this down a little bit. Okay, and let's use that. and take the and let's save this in our pictures and call it Unity for Humanity. Come back, come in here, add image, and then let's find Unity for, does it show up? Why not? Why is it not showing up? Should have, but maybe not. There it is, it's right there. So pull that in and put that in right there. Now again, if we want to do a transition, you should put it up above it and have a little bit of overlap. And then from here to here, click there first, click there second, and then go to Add Transition Cross. And you'll see it go.
3D tools like Unity.
And that came in a little bit too quick for me, so let me move that over here. Hitting G to move it. No, G's not moving it for some reason. Ooh. Okay, it's funny, it's not. Oh, it moves with it, I see. So if I want it to go later, then I should bring this under it like that. Let's see.
3D tools like Unity and Blender.
And let me bring in Blender. And maybe what I can do here, because I say the two one after another, is I can take this Unity for Humanity and I can move it over to this side of the screen and hit S for scale and X for the x-axis and make it a little smaller. Now hit G to grab it and move it over. And that leaves me a little room for Blender. So let's go in and type in Blender for Humanity. I don't know if that's going to yield anything here. And it doesn't do that, because Blender doesn't have a program like that. But Blender for Sustainability, let's see if that comes up. Is anybody using that? Instance Blender. So let's see, Blender 3D for Sustainability. Environment Art. Blender 3D for Sustainable Design, Environments, and Production Design. Okay, so there is a whole thing, people doing that. Okay, good. So let's grab that. It's amazing what you discover when you do unstructured learning and just look around and see. So there's that. Okay, grab that, save it. Blender for Sustainability. So keep in mind that I'm just doing this completely off the cuff. It's a kind of improv. Think of it as improvisational theater when you're creating a video this way. And it's quite fun because you don't know what you're going to come up with. This is unplanned, and let it sort of play out. But let me go add, well, I mean, it should be in here as well, but I'd have to go up and then, so refresh, and then go back down to Pictures and open it up again. And then it should appear in here somewhere. Oh, no. So it's called Blender. There it is, because I typed in BLE, Blender here. So there's the one. Let me drag that in and put it on top of it. And that means that this fade that I do, I'm going to have to bring it up. And so I can put this image on top of the other image and make it the same length. And then it'll fade those. But of course, this one's in the wrong position. So I hit G for grab and move it over. And I need to shrink it a little bit. So it's S for scale in the x-axis. Make it like that. There we go. Not terrible. I do think I need to crop this one a little bit. So let me come down to this one and go to crop and crop it on the, not the left, but crop it on the right. There we go. Even make a little gap in between. That doesn't hurt too. And then I've got
tools like Unity and Blender. Blender is not only useful for making.
So by doing that, now I can make them last over the audio a little bit. And let me grab both of these by hitting Shift and C. No, it won't let me do that. Let's go to there. Let's go to hit G and go over to there. And let's see.
Like Unity and Blender. Blender is not only useful for making video editing, but also for making mesh models.
And then we can say for making mesh models, and we want to get a picture of Blender doing mesh models. And here, let's see if they give any pictures of mesh models. No, let's say if we type in Blender 3D renewable energy models and green energy set illustrator at the Blender market. Windmills, okay, that's not too bad. It's okay. Let me see, let's try something else. 3 renewable energy models, Blender for scientists. There's somebody who's making, in Blender, making solar cells. And that's kind of cool, actually.
Plus, doing other stuff. Do with everything else.
Yeah, so there's people doing all sorts of stuff. How to make a solar cell texture in Blender. Let me go to images and see what I can get off the web for this. Solar cell textures, ArtStation, solar panels 3D kit. What about anything else that's interesting here? It's always a nice hunter-gatherer thing that you can do with this. But this one here says Blender. There we go. So let me just grab this, save this image as Blender solar picture, and go to pictures again and put it in. Go back to Blender, look for Blender. Uh-oh. Blender solar pictures. Do we have it anywhere? Oh, well, I did my own, and that is there somewhere, but I have my own that I'll drag in, and then I'll find that other one. So that's what I was working on for biogas, but let me also then find the one that I was just talking about and find it. Did I save it in pictures, I wonder? So let me actually go to Add Image and see. There it is. Yeah, there it is. Okay. So I can have that. I could shrink this down. And let's move this over to here and even do a little bit of a rotation, which kind of makes it look like it's standing out, which is kind of cool. And cover that up like that. And say
Unity and Blender. Blender is not only useful for making video editing, but also for making mesh models like you'd see in a...
There you go. So it shows the mesh models. I think it would be helpful to have a dissolve here too. And so again, you'd pick this. This has got to dissolve into that. I don't think you can dissolve here to here. If you add a transition between these, what does that do? No, there's no transition because there's nothing to transition over. So that didn't do anything. So what you'd have to do in this case, if you want to do that, is put these on different tracks. Oh, look at that. Yeah, it's in the wrong place. So what you'd want to do is go like this, and then bring this up and go like this, and then come out. And then, once you have that, you can go, well, this transition should go over this one, and you do add transition cross. And then this one, and you go add transition cross. And then, yeah, it does that.
But also for making mesh.
Sometimes it's blinking, so there's something wrong here. What is it that's wrong? Let's see. Delete, delete. We can go from this one, which is to this one, and then add the transition, and that gives us that fade. This pops in and shouldn't, so we should be able to do this one and this one, and then add the transition, and we get a nice transition. Okay.
Making video editing, but also for making mesh models like
weird
you'd see.
blink there, so I don't understand that blink. That's a bit of a problem. And I don't know why it's doing that. That blink is bad. No. Something like that. Maybe what I can do here, and this would work, is I will take out, because these transitions are right on top of one another, I'll take that one out, bring this in, and I will take this, they're going to be lasting longer, and because I'm bringing that piece in, I can bring it in a little later. This one can come in, oh, wait a minute. How does it let me, you know, this is an opportunity actually to show you a different technique when we're doing a double blend. So let me delete that transition. And what we'll do is, we do want these to come in at the same time. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put this on top, create another track, come in here, put that in, and it's going to
Making
say
mesh models like you'd see in a computer game.
And of course you can't see the other one because it's underneath, so I'm going to change those, put that there, put that one underneath, so that one appears on top. Okay, but what I'm going to do is, instead of doing the transition by doing add transition, I'm going to do it with keyframes. So at the beginning of this, it's going to be opaque. I'm sorry, it's going to be, the opacity is going to be 0, it's going to be transparent, and I'm going to make that a keyframe. Same thing with this one here. Its first frame is going to be completely transparent. Then by the time we get to the end of that last piece of the background image, by the time we get to here, when it goes away, it will be, oops, didn't mean to do that. This will be completely opaque. So we hit 1. And then come here, make this 1, there we go. And now they will fade in over it, and you won't see that these ones disappear.
Also, for making mesh models like you'd see in a computer game to do world building simulations.
And then world building simulations, these are going to pop out at that point, and I'm going to put in here my world building simulation, which is here. And I can put that anywhere, actually. Go in here.
World building simulations.
And those should have faded out by then. By the time we get into world building simulations, those should be gone. And that has to be put underneath here so it doesn't have a gap.
World building simulations.
Yeah, and the problem is that these two are not completely lined up. So to do lineups, there's got to be a better way to do it, some kind of snapping function. But what I tend to do is to put the cursor and then back it up like that. And then I use my arrow keys, and you can see these are not lined up. That needs to go away by this time. So we need to pull that back just a tad and go back a frame. Yep. Oh, nope. It's supposed to go one more frame on top of that. And so that's really hard sometimes to do, to make these things match up. I'm trying to think if there is time speed factor. There's got to be a way to make it a little bit easier to see where things line up. But that did work there. Okay, so that's going to be the transition.
Simulations.
Yeah, just jumped in there. All right, and let that sentence play out. Now come here and use the cut. Remember that you can go to strip and split with K. I'm going to delete that. And then, okay, so, and probably I have another picture because I'm going to go halfway with that world building. I want to show another world building simulation, which is, let's see what else I have in here. That one's not bad. Let me see, do I have another one that's even better? World building simulations. Take some time thinking this through when you're just doing this. Oh, there's a world building simulation. All right. Oh, and there's a better one. All right, so there's one there. Okay, so world building simulations. Let me bring this back a halfway point, bring this back. There, that's good. So,
Simulations.
yeah. And let it play out. All right.
Simulations.
But there should be a fade. This is better if it fades in between. It's more gentle. So grab this and pull it up. Pull this out. And here again, we can use our traditional one of this fading to that by adding a transition. I'll do a gamma cross. Doesn't matter. Here, gamma crosses are more subtle, more even. And I want to move this over and move this over, so I have a little bit more time.
Do world building simulation.
Let's make this out on simulate. And once again, I didn't put that in right. Okay.
To do world building simulations.
And fade into there. Okay, so the next thing that we want to do is say something to the effect of there we can go to this right here and say, here we go. Okay. This way, I'll do the one with the child in it. Okay, so and I'm going to make a transition here from this one now to this one and add cross. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, and the audio that I'm going to use is, in this way we can blend the simulation with the real world. So I go back to Audacity, and I can just get rid of all this by selecting Control A and hitting Delete, and say something to the effect of, in this way we can blend computer simulations with real-world activities and train people in the virtual world for things that they can then learn to do in the real world. Okay. So, let's see.
In this way, we can blend computer simulations.
And I don't like that gap there. I paused too long, so why don't I just delete that? Just clean this audio up a bit.
In this,
and get rid of that clap, because that clap is wrong. There, let's see.
in this way, we can blend.
And that gap here is a little too much, so I'm going to delete that. Really, you can edit this audio
In this
up.
way, we can blend computer simulation.
Even that, we can blend. Let's get rid of that. Let me tighten this up a bit. There. Really get that audio popping.
In this way, we can blend computer simulations with real.
And that one too, is gap is too big.
with real-world and computer simulations with real-world activities, and train people in the virtual.
That's too much of a gap there. I love how you can just edit your own audio and tighten it up.
And train people in the virtual world for things that they can then learn to do in the real world.
Again, that's too much there. All right, so now export this and go, yeah. I'm in the middle of something right now. Call this blended reality. And okay. And then pull this in by adding music. In reality, there it is. Came in where the cursor is, and we can say, bring that over here.
In this way, we can blend.
I want that to come right here. Again, put the waveform on, display waveform.
In this way, we can blend computer simulations with.
And that we can blend, I feel like that should have been a little bit longer, like this.
Way we can blend computer simulations.
Blend, it should come in a little bit earlier though. We'll have to pull this back there.
In this way, we can blend computer simulations with real-world activities.
And then
Simulations with
real, and then let's get this over here, and then we can do a cut to there.
Simulations with real-world activities.
A little bit too late, because it should come on with real, and it should then do the cut.
Simulations with real-world activities, and train people in the virtual world for things that they can then learn to do in the real world.
All right, so I train people in the virtual world for things. So let's go to, give me 1 second. I have to, I'm going to play this from the beginning, and I'm going to get the food off, and then we're going to see how we're going to end this
Global
video.
sustainability education and research through community-developed environmental initiatives and ecological stewardship. Mitakuye Oyasin in Sioux Lakota, meaning we are all related. At the Dr. Kiran C. Patel Center for Global Solutions at the University of South Florida in Tampa, graduate students work on the Rosebud Continuum Ecoscience Center as part of their graduate studies. The students use the book Drawdown, the most comprehensive plan ever proposed to reverse global warming, edited by Paul Hawken. That is our primary text. One of our projects is to model the Rosebud Continuum Sustainability Education and Ecoscience Center.
Okay, and I feel like that jump is too abrupt. So, of course, what we do then is move this up and bring it up a track, bring this in, bring this out, say we're going to go from here, shift click to there, and add a transition. And let's see what it looks like.
One of our projects.
Yeah, but it would be nice if we extend that out a little bit more.
Text. One of our projects.
I think also that book comes out too quickly. So what if I were to take that book and make it last a little longer so they fade out simultaneously?
One of our.
Even more so.
One of our projects.
Didn't fade out.
One of our projects.
And maybe I do need to get rid of that.
Text. One of our projects is to model the Rosebud Continuum Sustainability Education and Ecoscience Center in virtual reality using.
And that lasts too long on the screen. Let me find another. What would this one do? No. 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 I can drop this on for sure. I could say.
One of our projects is to model the Rosebud.
The Rosebud. So let me put that in and scale this with S down and move it in G over somewhere. Kind of feel like it should be over here, but it should be scaled a little bit smaller. There we go. the Rosebud Continuum Sustainability Education and Ecoscience Center in Sustainability Education and Ecoscience Center. Okay, so this is one of those cases where we want this to fade in and fade out, so we're not going to do a dissolve over it. We're going to start on this and make the opacity 0, set the keyframe, come over here, set it to 1, set the keyframe so it fades up to 1, go over here, make another keyframe at 1, go to the end of where we want it to fade out and make it 0, and set a keyframe, and that way it'll just dissolve in. Model the Rosebud Continuum Sustainability Education and Ecoscience Center in virtual reality. And then when he says in virtual reality, you can see the audio here. Virtual reality. There's where it says in vi, there's where the V is, in virtual reality. But let's bring in the picture of what does this one say? Or this one here. In virtual reality, using 3D tools like Unity. So if we do that, we could actually bring this back, bring this down. Oops, I'm going to do that. In virtual reality, using 3D tools like... Whoa, what just happened here? Something's bad here. Cross dissolve. I better go back. Well, that was a cross dissolve from that to that, so we need to get rid of that cross dissolve. Yeah, we need to get rid of that cross dissolve now and go to using 3D tools like, and that's where we need to cross from there to, from here to here, and add a transition. 3D tools like, and then this other one is coming in awkwardly. You'd have to bring that over there. And actually, I would do the same thing here. I would go to 0 there, set a keyframe, and at the end of my transition, I would bring it in full. There we go. And then tools like Unity and Blender. Blender is not only useful for making video editing, but also for making mesh models like you'd see in a computer game to do world-building simulations. Something went wrong here. What went wrong? Why did that not go out? Because it was set with a keyframe to 1, so I messed up my transition. So I'm going to go full on there, and by the time we get to here, at the end of this transition, I want it to be out 0. There we go. For making mesh models like you'd see in a computer game to do world-building simulations. In this way, we can blend computer simulations with real-world activities and train people in the virtual world for things that they can then learn to do in the real world. All right, train people in the virtual world for things that they can then do in the real world. So let's see, train people in the virtual world for things they can do. And what do I have there? I should be able to use
global sustainability education and activities.
Let's see. In the real virtual world for things they can do in the real world. Let me go back to then this piece here. And train people in the virtual world for things that they can then... And train people in the virtual... Actually, you know what would be fun?
Missions with real-world activities.
I can keep that out of here. I can make this last all the way there. It's a little
Computer
slower.
simulations with real-world activities, and train people in the virtual world for things that they can then learn to do in the real world.
Virtual world for things they can then do. Oops.
For things that they can then learn to do in the real world.
And that could be the end of my video at about 1 minute and 30 seconds. So all I want to do there, it's a little bit nicer when you have these transitions. So I don't mind a cut
And
here,
train people in the
except it should be
world activities. And
train, and that should actually come in on that. So let me bring this back a little bit so it's a little tighter.
activities. And train people in the virtual world for things that they can then learn to do in the real world.
And there, I can click on that and go add transition gamma cross. And I need to make this image bigger, obviously. So scale it up that way and then scale it in the x-axis. And
They can then learn to do in the real world.
and you have a child, the end with a child, that's sweet. And then we'll do a fade out. So at approximately 126, we will come to here. We will then set this opacity at 1 and then have it fade out to 0 by the time we get here. A lot of control
That they
there.
can then learn to do in the real world.
And that can be the script. And that's the end of it. Now, the other thing is we need to add some music to this. So to do that, we can go here to YouTube audio library. That's what I would suggest that you type in. And assuming that you have a YouTube account, you should be able to get to the library. And then you have music and sound effects that you can use. So you have a whole bank of different kids playing, etc. But here's music, and then you can preview what you think is the music. But I'm going to go to sound effects. No, I'm going to go to search or filter library and say that I want the mood of this to be bright and inspirational. And let's see what this is. Not too bad. Nope. Samba. Yeah, that's sort of too. That's the kind of thing I like. All right, Fruits of Life. I'm going to do that one. I'm going to download it. It comes down into my downloads folder as an MP3. This is royalty-free music from YouTube, so you can use their audio library. I'm going to come in here and say add sound and go to my downloads folder, and let's see if or where it downloaded to. There it is, Fruits of Life, and there it comes in, and I have to create another track for it, but I usually leave channel 1 open for background music, so I'm going to put that in here. And let me scrunch way down. Oh, I do have something in track 1, in channel 1. Can I add another channel down here? Or do I have to move this up? Or maybe I'll just bring this whole thing up to the very top. I got 9 channels. Where are more channels? Add, scene, mask, sequence, adjustment layer, effect strip. There should give me more channels in here. So how do I get more channels? Let's see. I should have many more channels than this, but I don't remember how to insert gaps. Channel. Strange. Well, I can move this. This picture is that picture. That's the video. So I should be able to move this straight up by going G in Y and go blip, blip, blip. And let's see if that does still work.
Meaning we are all related.
All right, I lost my transition from here to there, so I do need to get rid of that. But I can go here, click this on again, and do add transition, and I should get that transition now.
In Sulakota, meaning we are all related.
Yeah, there we go. And that had its own music. So if I take this music and start this, I'm going to have to stop it when I get to that music. Or I can just replace that music. Way too loud. Display waveform. Change the volume. Bring it down.
Through community-developed environmental initiatives and ecological stewardship. Mitakuye Oyasin, in Sulakota, meaning we are all related.
And then we should fade this out. So it's the same idea. You can take the volume and make a keyframe and come back here and make a keyframe that starts at 0.2. But when we get to the other audio, which is right here, then we can take that keyframe and fade it out so that when this music comes in, put it at 0. Right? So now it goes down.
We are all related.
Right, so then that music comes in from that track. When that one goes out,
At the doc.
and then we bring it back up. So we start at 0 back here when it fades out, and then go a few seconds later to where this new frame comes in, and bring it back up to 0.2. And so we have
At the Dr. Kiran C. Patel Center for Global Solutions at the University.
the only thing I don't like about that is it comes in way too quick. So here's what you do. This little button here is jump to keyframe. So I can jump to that keyframe and erase it and come a little bit later and then set it again. And let's see now.
At the Dr. Kiran C. Patel Center for Global Solutions.
And I want it to fade up. So let me go back to that keyframe. And we're at 0 there. But then we start moving up, as you can see over here in the green, and we come up a little too early. So let's come to here, and let's also make a keyframe of 0. And then let's jump to our next keyframe and put that at, just get rid of it, and come a little bit further in, and then bring it up to 0.2. And there you go. So then
At the Dr. Kiran C. Patel Center for
There we
Global
go.
Solutions at the University of South Florida in Tampa, graduate students work on the Rosebud Continuum Eco Science Center as
And
part
here,
of their
as you can
graduate.
see, this image is not in the borders, so I made a mistake there. I have to select it, and I've got to scale it in the x-axis, so it covers the blank area. There we go.
Rosebud Continuum Eco Science Center as part of their graduate studies. The students use the book Drawdown.
And that one, too, was not proper, so hit S for scale, X for the x-axis, and make it bigger.
Drawdown, the most comprehensive plan ever proposed to reverse global warming, edited by Paul Hawken. That is our primary text.
One of our projects is to model the Rosebud Continuum Sustainability Education and Eco-Science Center in virtual reality using 3D tools like Unity and Blender. Blender is not only useful for making video editing, but also for making mesh models like you'd see in a computer game to do world-building simulations. In this way, we can blend computer simulations with real-world activities and train people in the virtual world for things that they can then learn to do in the real world. So it was really weird as the audio's off there.
To do world-building simulations. In this way, we can blend computer simulations.
So we can blend computer simulations, that's what we're looking at.
Blend computer simulations.
Okay, so that has to move, that has to move, that has to move, and that has to move. Hit G to grab it and move it. We're going to get rid of I'm going to get rid of this transition because it's no longer applies. But I'm going to move this all over. And it should be,
Blend computer simulations.
that's a computer simulation.
In this way, we can blend computer simulations with real-world activity.
That's the real world activity, so there's going to be, that is going to blend to that, and add a transition across.
Simulations with real
That's too short, so let's go like that.
simulations with real-world
That's the real
activities
world.
and train people in the virtual world for things
In the virtual world,
people in the virtual
where I say virtual world is when it needs to jump to the virtual world.
and train people in the virtual world for things that they can then learn to do in the real world.
And then the real world has to start here.
They can then learn to do in the real world.
And that's not coming in fast enough or going out fast enough, so let's go like that.
That they can then learn to do in the real world.
We fade out with the child. And because we are fading this out, we want the audio to fade out at the same point. So I'll click on here and I'll set my keyframe. And then where the video fades out, I will set another keyframe to 0. And then it just feels a little bit off. Let's look at this. We probably want to get back to that keyframe, use this to jump back to it where it's at 0 and get rid of that and have it come out a little later, and you'll go from 1 to here, put the keyframe there, move out a little bit and let it fade out from here to there. Make that 0. Okay, so and that faded out too quick for the audio again. So again, click on this track, go to the first keyframe, get rid of that keyframe, have it fade out by the time we get to here. So we need to have it start the fade here and end the fade there, the audio fade. So now that's the end. So that's our video. So we want to render our video out now that we've added our music at about 129. 130 is the end. We should put in some text here and say add text, and then we can come up to here where it says effect strip and we can say the end, and we can put in another piece. We can change the color, of course, or put it green maybe, and we can change the size of it over here, and then we can change the font if you like by clicking on font, open the folder, it'll go to your Windows fonts thing, and let me make it this one here, Arial Black, and say the end. So we're going to end it at 130, but we also want to fade that in. So probably the best way to do that, once again, to fade that in is to start at 0 in the alpha over, the opacity, start it at 0, make a keyframe, and then come over and have it fade in by the end as that goes out, have it be fading in. And then at the end of it, we can have it go from 1, make another keyframe there, and then at the very end, we can have it turn to 0. All right, so then it would be, right. Okay, so now what we want to do is render this because we've got a video that we like. And we want to again make sure that the end frame is in the right place. We're not doing a 2-minute video, we're ending it right here. So just slide that back. That's your end frame. That's what's going to render all this area in here. You don't have to worry about this part because it's not even going to be rendered once it fades out, because we're only rendering up to the end of this part here. Okay, and so we have our video. Now what you have to do after you've saved it, the last thing you have to do is a bit of setup, which is important. You're going to go to the rendering, which is this. You see these different icons here. It's the third one down. It's the scene. and it's the output. You want to tell it what folder you want to go to, so I'm going to put it in the videos folder. All right, I accept that. It's not going to be a PNG, that would just render a single picture. It's going to be an FFmpeg video. Those are the choices. So we're rendering it as a video in color, yes.
Food is ready. Come.
You don't need to do color management, but you want to go to encoding, and you want to make sure that you're doing, the defaults are good, H.264 output quality, but you want to make sure that audio is selected as an MP3. Once you've set that up, then you're ready to render because you know where it's going to render into that videos folder, that it's going to be a video, it's not going to be any of these other things, and that it's in color, not black and white, and that it has an MP3 audio, or one other kind of audio you like. MP3 is what I always use. Once you've got that set up, then you go up here to render, and you render animation, which is an animation. You'll be able to see it as a finished product, which you can upload to YouTube. So I'll be back after this renders. I suggest you get a cup of tea too.
I was just defeating him. So I was just telling her something that I said, one of these things that just kind of grates on my nerves. So like there was a football player, like I told about a month ago, whatever. He like virtually died on the field. Like he got tackled, and it's like that incident when you get hit in your chest at just the right time, at just the right place, with just the right point, and it like stopped your heart. And I said like. Anyway, the athletic trainer got it going, and he was touching it up for a while, but they brought it back, and they were talking about how oftentimes that no matter what people do, they can't bring it back. In fact, there was a guy, like a young boy, way back after the first week here, he was like 10 or 12 years old, he got hit by a baseball, he died there, like, you know.
When they have a kid,
No, not the kid. But anyway, so I'm reading about this day. So this guy, he goes on a talk show, and he's talking about how his athletic trainer was his hero, and he goes, he said, you know, I can't think of it now. And he said, well, that's my job. And he goes, I do realize that's his job. He said, but you know, he came here, he was mentally prepared, he was physically prepared, you know, he was ready to do what he needed to do. I thank him a lot. So this was great. What is it? So now I'm reading the comments, and it's like comment after comment after comment. It wasn't him. God put him there at the right place. It's like you need to be thanking God, not God. And I'm like, well, okay, for this guy, you know, for everything. And I'm like, okay, that's great, but what about the people whose kid died?
Right.
Like, oh, so God wasn't there, so God didn't care about my kid? You know, it's like everybody thinks that they're doing such a wonderful thing. Praise God, praise God. You know, God put him there, right place, right time, so he could save you. On and on and on. I'm like, but you know, 9 out of 10 people in that same circumstance died. So God didn't put somebody there because God didn't care about them. I'm just like, do you really not see how, like,
Because I'm rendering, but I'll.
Yeah, did you watch the news about the earthquake?
yes.
It's
Yeah, that's totally horrible.
Syria also, northern Syria. The size of
Right.
Okay, it looks like
They need that. I mean, thousands.
it looks like this ended before the fade. Huh. I guess I didn't.
Daddy,
Yeah.
no,
Wait, Nye. So we don't see the fade out, but that's I didn't put the thing at the end totally. It doesn't matter. I think it'll work. I'm gonna open up the folder here. Hold on, Nye. Hold on, Nye. Hold on, Nye. Hold on, Nye. Now let me go to the video folder and find my. It must be this one here. This is February 10th. So it gives you the number of frames that you rendered as an MKV. So I'm going to just call this Rosebud Blender. Rosebud video made in Blender. Now MKV files, I have to see if YouTube takes MKVs. I don't even know why that made an MKV because I said it should be an MP4. Or But let me see if that even is the one.
Global sustainability education and research through community-developed environmental initiatives.
Well, that's weird. That is weird. What did I say in Blender? Maybe I have to re-render this. This one here is called Rosebud Blend for Mercy. So what is the name that we're getting here? I may have to redo this. It's in videos, and I did it from frame 1. And look at that. These things are backed up at frame 1, and we really should have started on frame 0. So I did make a mistake. We should go to the end a little bit further so that we capture the entire end. So make that a little longer. And it looks like the entire thing is starting before that. So it got backed up for some reason. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of it. And I'm going to shift everything over to the right very slightly. There. Now when I start at 0 by going back, hit play.
A Center for Global Sustainability.
I also learned that I should have done a fade in for this first piece because it doesn't feel right. So let me come back here and pick that first image of video, make the opacity 0, make a keyframe, come in another frame or 2, make it go to 1, and then have it go.
A Center for Global Sustainability Education and
All right, so now it is actually going to work better, and I apologize, and you should see the fade. And to make sure, I'm going to make the ending here a little bit longer. There we go, and then I'll have my fade out. Glad we caught that. Now let's go and re-render it. And also make sure it just contain videos, file extensions, as I mentioned video. And that is X264. But let's do it as an MPEG-4. I thought that container Matroska. Let's do container MPEG-4. Not MKV. That's good to know. Encoding container should be MPEG-4. That is better for our purposes. And we don't have any weird file formats, so let's try it again and render it, and then I'll be back in a few minutes.
And they know there's going to be aftershocks, and they can't tell you when that's going to be.
And you know, these people are always, it's very cold. It's very cold now. It's winter. So they don't even get a chance to do the test. They have to do a burnout if they're doing it. Like, so I was thinking, what's we're doing in life? That's what matters, really. If we think of every one day in our days here, like how we be concerned about this thing and that thing, this is really a big deal. That did happen. The flooding that happened in Portugal area, when the floods and the other things.
Yeah.
And they got some money as well, but a better, like a richer
Right.
country, and it's Florida. Hey. Hey.
Yeah.
But it's still hard. People die.
But Indonesia had a huge flood, nobody in the United States even knew it was happening.
Right, that's the point. We don't know nothing.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going on.
Probably are. Help people get through. Well, what's callous, as you're saying, is that we then make an assumption you can speak on behalf of everybody, because you have a
Okay, so it's faded out. That's good. So now let's take a look at it. So I'm going to close that up. And we've done the rendering. So I go to my library, not my library. I go to my, I go to my folder. So File Explorer. And didn't give me, that's not what I wanted. So where is my File Explorer? Where are your videos? Okay, we're in there. And there's a V that we had. Where's the new one? The new one is, I have to go to date. And there it is. It's an MP4 now. And I have to rename it.
A Center for Global Sustainability Education.
Okay. So I'm going to rename it and call it Rosebud Video Made in Blender, but this time it's an MP4. Then, no, it's not made for kids. So Rosebud Test Video Made in Blender for students to learn editing in Blunder. This is an improvised video made for the purposes of teaching students how to blunder through Blender to make a video. It is just a draft, so I'm just apologizing for it. And then hit next, and then upload it, and it'll upload. And you should all have YouTube channels. That's where we want to share our work. And once we've done that, it says it's uploading 46%, 2 minutes left to upload. Of course, you can always go back and change any of these images out. But that's how you make a basic video between 1 minute and 2 minutes long. And I hope that that helps a little bit. Just to review once again, I got the audio track here, audio tracks here. Leave your bottom channel open for your final music and stack up. It looks like you can get 9 tracks. There may be more, and I'm not sure how you make more. It would turn off the channels. This would turn on the channels, but there doesn't seem to be a way to click to add channels. So I think you're going to have to work within the 9 channels that it has. And we'll check on that. But you have text and effects that you can put in. So it's a pretty fun program to use. Let's see now if we're done with this. That's processing for 31 minutes to high definition, but it should work now. So if we click on
A Center for Global Sustainability Education and Research through community-developed environmental initiatives and ecological stewardship. Mitakuye Oyasin in Sioux Lakota, meaning we are all related. At the Dr. Kiran C. Patel Center for Global Solutions at the University of South Florida in Tampa, graduate students work on the Rosebud Continuum Eco-Science Center as part of their graduate studies. The students use the book Drawdown, the most comprehensive plan ever proposed to reverse global warming, edited by Paul Hawken. That is our primary text.
one of our projects is to model the Rosebud Continuum Sustainability Education and Eco-Science Center in virtual reality using 3D tools like Unity and Blender. Blender is not only useful for making video editing, but also for making mesh models like you'd see in a computer game to do world-building simulations. In this way, we can blend computer simulations with real-world activities and train people in the virtual world for things that they can then learn to do in the real world. So there it is. Obviously that was completely improvised. It's not a, by any means a perfect video, but I think it serves the purpose for this. And I hope that you'll have success editing and learning how to use Blender for editing. It is open source and free, so it is a wonderful tool to have in our toolkit. All right, check you later. See you this week.